state of Maharashtra, ever since the COVID epidemic has been declared, we have all been working very hard. And we have been trying to create facilities which would be for the use of the people. And incidentally, in India, where what is not done is focused rather than what is done, I'm happy that in our response to this COVID epidemic, we have generally focused on what has been done rather than what has not been done. Friends, I will be speaking in short, and I'll divide my talk into three parts, and I hope that all the three parts are of relevance to you. The first part, I will talk a little bit of the disease, because the points which you mentioned, Mr. Prabhu, are essentially related to the lack of understanding of the disease and how the disease spreads. So first, I'll talk a little bit of the disease. And number two, I'll talk about the facilities that the government has created. And the most important point of how to get a bed. That is the second point I will talk about. And what to do when the patient comes home. And the third part, I'll talk about what is to be done by the societies and what is not to be done by the societies, which is, I think, the key thing of today's discussion. So friends, the coronavirus as a virus has been existing between us for a very long time. And if you look at the Dettol hand wash, then you will find that it is effective against coronavirus. So there were 7 strains of coronavirus which were known earlier, but now this is the 8th strain. The interesting thing about this 8th strain is that it is apparently a zoonotic infection, that is an infection which developed in the animals, maybe in bats and mice, which is spread to human beings. So the jury is still out as to whether this is a natural thing or whether this is not a natural thing. And the jury is still out whether the World Health Organization did the right thing and pointed out the grave nature of the disease to us in advance or not. So there is a controversy on that, and the jury is still out on that. There is no decision on that. But there is a very interesting thing. This virus and the way the disease spreads can be interpreted mathematically. And that is a key thing to our understanding of this virus. The virus can spread as of now by 2 means, as per our knowledge. Number one, the virus can spread by aerosol. So when I sneeze or when I cough or when I emit any aerosol in any way, then the virus can spread. And the second is that the virus can spread because of contaminated surface. So that is the 2 ways in which we know that the virus spreads. What we do not know, and I think that is more important, what we do not know. In the realm of the unknown, we have point number 1. Does the virus spread through air? And the answer to that is that there is no evidence that the virus spreads through air. But the contrary thing is that there is no evidence that the virus does not spread to air. So there is an absence of evidence with us that the virus spreads through air, but there is no concrete absence of evidence to prove that it does not spread through air. And that is the most dangerous thing about this virus. So that is why the wearing of masks is so very important. So that is the first thing. The second thing is that the virus also is excreted in various body fluids. However, till date, we do not have a single case where the virus has a single proven case. There are many claims, but there is no single proven case that the virus spreads to anything else. Like it may spread through urine, it may spread through feces, it may spread through seminal fluid, etc. So there is no evidence of the virus spreading. Therefore, if we go by the current knowledge that the virus spreads through droplets, the virus spreads through contaminated surfaces, and there is an outside chance or there is no evidence that the virus does not spread through air. Therefore, our entire focus comes here. And that is why not touching the face is so important. A person touches his face once in five times in a minute. That is the average thing, as is being claimed now. But essentially, it is the mucous surfaces. So which are the mucous surfaces? Number one, the mouth, the lips, the tongue, that is one. The nose, the eyes. So these are the places where the virus may enter into us. And therefore, to protect our mouth and nose, we should wear a mask. To protect our eyes, we should wear goggles. And the nose also is protected by the mask. And we should not touch our hands to our face. So the importance of hand sanitization. So that is how it is. The virus spreads to a distance of 3 meters. That is the maximum distance that a virus can spread. So therefore, social distancing, or I would rather call it physical distancing, that is a very, very important thing. And when I do physical distancing, so the virus, suppose it goes by at the maximum end of 6 meters, 6 feet. So each of us, if we maintain a distance of 6 feet from us, we are reducing the tendency of the virus to come into and infect us. Now, the virus can come in and get deposited in your skin. It can get deposited in the hair, but it cannot be absorbed inside the human body. So therefore, though WHO still has not recommended it, and WHO definitely did not recommend use of masks till some certain mathematicians proved them wrong. So very much advisable that when one comes home from outside, then one should take off all the clothes that one is wearing and one should have a head bath, head to toe, because this is where the virus stays for about 3 days if it does. So these are the basic precautions: social distancing, not touching contaminated surfaces, and a mask. This is what is required. Now, where do you wear a mask? You wear a mask in public places. You're not supposed to wear a mask at your home. A mask ultimately stops the flow of oxygen to some extent. So, if you wear a mask while you are jogging, or if you wear a mask while you are doing some skipping at home, that is absolutely not advisable. That may lead to hypoxia. Another question comes, should you wear N95 masks? Then the answer to that is a very, very straightforward no. No need to wear any N95 mask. What you need to wear is a very simple mask. There is also mathematics behind that. It is said, and studies have shown, that if two people are wearing masks, then the chance of the virus getting infected from one to another, even if one of them coughs, is less than 1.5%. On the contrary, one of them, the infected person, is not wearing a mask, and the other person is wearing a mask. In that case, the chance of infection is can go up to 70%. So that is the very important thing in this thing. Virus has a very, we still do not know what is the probability distribution in which this virus infection, if you take it over a period of time and the number of people in a particular society, and then if we try to calculate the rate at which the virus will grow, and we take the rate every day, then and if we plot it, so a curve will come up. We still do not know what is the probability distribution of that curve. Some people, most of these studies which we are seeing are based on assuming that it is a Gaussian distribution. It is not, and that is why all these doomsday predictions that are coming out, these doomsday predictions are not working out. So we still do not know what is the distribution. But definitely, the virus is sort of a winner-take-all. The way it spreads is like a winner-take-all spread. So therefore, it goes from 1 to 2 to 4, 4 to 8. Now, some people talk about the rate of infection, that is RO, or the rho factor. And they say that if the rho factor is more than 1, then the virus will go up. But we still do not know what will be the impact of the rho, because we do not know what is the distribution in which the rho is operating. So therefore, today, all the predictions that we are getting, whether they are doomsday or whether they are not, if we look by the benefit of hindsight, then we will find that doomsday predictions have failed. All these doomsday predictions made by the media and made by even the IIT and made by all these so-called technical institutions have failed. Nobody. We have to ask them that why did you make these doomsday predictions without adequate data in hand? On the contrary, all those who have been extremely negligent and those who said nothing will happen and let us open down the economy, etc. Now that has also failed. So therefore, social distancing, keeping your hands clean, as they say, and thirdly, wearing of masks, goggles, and protective equipment. These are the three things that stop the course of the virus. And if we are able to do this for a period of 15 days, then the chain of spread of virus has to break. And then in that period, if you are able to collect all the people who have got infected, and if these people are put into a quarantine or in a facility, in that case, in the next 15 to 20 days, the disease can be eradicated. This is the theory on which the virus operates. Now, I would like to tell you what we at the Medical Education Department are doing to combat this virus. All of you are aware that Government of Maharashtra is doing many things. The Government of Maharashtra, we were the first. In fact, we banned the flights from US, UK, and from the Middle East before Government of India did that. Later on 22nd of March, Government of India banned all flights from all over the world, and India quarantined itself from the rest of the world. And after that, we are having a lockdown, and the lockdown is still in force. We initially went for a nationwide lockdown, and now we are talking in terms of containment zones. But the theory still remains the same, what I told you. And therefore, in Maharashtra, as we are seeing that the cases are going up every day. Therefore, there is no reason to believe, and there is no formula, there is no mathematical formula which shows that the disease is going to come down in the next week or so. So we still do not know when the disease will peak. It may peak in the monsoons or it may peak after the monsoons, but we still do not know when the disease will peak. Now, having said that, what are we doing on the medical side to so then there are three types of patients which we normally have. One is the patients which are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic, so that is one. And number two is the patients who are moderately symptomatic, and thirdly, those who are severe and those who are critical. So I would like to say that Government of India has in fact made very clear guidelines for all of that. And Government of Maharashtra, and mostly my department, has prepared the protocol for what is to be done in each of these ailments. And we have all these things available on PDF books, which are available free and can be distributed on WhatsApp. So if any one of you is interested, please feel to get in touch with me, and I will distribute all the literature. You don't have to go to the internet, you don't have to search. It is all available in one PDF, searchable PDF. You can see that. Within the state, what we have done is that we have seen that every medical college has a separate isolated COVID ward. The separate isolated COVID ward has separate entry for the patients, it has separate entry for the doctors, it has separate entry for the nurses, and the exits also are separate. Each COVID ward should have, a COVID hospital is having a minimum of 150 beds. In larger places like Pune, our aim is to convert that new building at Sassoon to an 1100 bedded facility. Currently, it is operating at 600 beds. But the aim is to convert it into a 1100 bedded facility. And in Pune, the aim is to see that all these beds are connected with oxygen lines. Currently, that is available in 450 beds. We want to have every bed connected with oxygen lines, and we want to have 10% of the critical ICU beds to be equipped with ventilators. So what we are trying is that, number one, we should have dedicated isolated COVID hospitals. These COVID hospitals should have all the facilities. So they should have isolation beds, they should have oxygen lines, they should have various facilities like multi-para monitors, they should have CT scan machines, they should have a COVID OPD, they should have a COVID level room. So all these things are, dialysis machines are something very important. Nobody is willing to take a COVID patient for dialysis. So every COVID hospital necessarily has at least 5 dialysis machines. That is the rule which we have made. And in larger places, we are having, larger facilities. And then after that, you have to have them properly staffed. So you have the regular MBBS doctors who are resident doctors and medical officers, but you have specialists, and then you have intensivists and you have anesthetists who are also required in each of these hospitals. And after that, you have to give these people a break and a quarantine after they do their shift. So that is something which is done. And again, these people come and work out. I would like to salute all doctors which are there in this gathering, because you guys are doing an amazing job. I am a doctor myself. When I join the army, then I know that I have to fight a war. But when I become a doctor, then I think my aim is to save lives. But here I find that I am not only saving lives, but I have also to fight a war. And the doctors with us, whether they thought that they would or they would not, but today they are fighting a war and they are doing a great job at that. So I must salute all the doctors that are there. The second thing that we in my department we are doing is that we are setting up all the protocols. So what is to be done? किस प्रकार से disease को treat करना है, क्या करना है? So various protocols are being set up by our department, and I must say that the Pune Sassoon Hospital, the BJ Medical College, has done a very good job in that, and also JJ Nagpur Medical College, etc. So we have done all the protocols on treatment of how to treat. It's a very technical part. So how to treat, that is one thing. The third thing which we have done is that we have ensured that I also look after the Food and Drug Administration. So one of my duties therefore is to ensure that food to care is available, but medical equipment and medicines for COVID and for non-COVID, both are available. So that is something which we have ensured. And I'm happy to tell you that when the coronavirus epidemic started, then in Maharashtra, our capacity of producing N95 masks was 5,000 masks a day. And our capacity of producing PPEs was 0. Today, we manufacture more than 120,000 PPEs in a day. And we are manufacturing more than 120,000 N95 masks in a day. And we are trying to bring in some sort of price control on this so that the N95 masks and PPEs are sold to the general public at the same rate. I'm also happy to announce here that today N95 masks and PPEs are available off the shelf in chemist shops, in select chemist shops. So any doctor who needs to have a PPE or N95 mask for his purpose of his treatment can go there and get it. We have also issued very detailed protocol as to who needs what sort of mask. So every doctor doesn't need an N95 mask, every doctor doesn't need a PPE. And PPEs are of different types, so that different people have to wear different types of PPEs. So that is another thing which we have done. And we have also ensured that there is a very smooth supply chain which is happening. Friends, the biggest challenge today is the city of Mumbai, and I am happy to tell you that very soon Mumbai will be having a total capacity of more than 50,000 beds to tackle this so-called deluge of cases that Mumbai may have. And Pune is also no less. Pune is already having a huge number. And now I will come to the most crucial part of today's meeting, and that I think the thing is what should societies do? And as I was told, there is one thing that doctors are not opening their practice. That is one. And number two, societies are asking for several types of evidences. They are interrogating COVID warriors. What are you a COVID warrior? Where did you go? There are also instances that a person who has worked in a COVID zone has not been allowed entry to his house or to his flat by the society after he has done his job. I would say that this is very unfortunate that such kind of things are being done. But I would also say that it stems from a deep seated uncertainty and lack of knowledge. And I think people do not read. And even so, experts are also not reading. And so I have actually, we have now prepared these guidelines. In fact, I was going to issue these guidelines on Monday. I'll issue it today itself. So these are simple guidelines for households in urban setups, so various activities in the area of COVID-19 pandemic with lockdown or without lockdown. Because even if the state government of India decides to do away with the lockdown, or even if the government of India decides to, reduce the intensity of the lockdown, which it already has in certain parts of the state, we have to live with corona and the fear of having corona again. The flights will start, so person from Mumbai will go to maybe Lucknow, and if he's infected, he will carry that infection with him. So we are now looking at a very, very challenging period ahead, and the country, as I said, has not peaked, has not come on the descending part of the peak, and therefore we have to live with corona, as they say. And there's a great demand from people that remove the lockdown, and everything has its merits. So there are some general guidelines, and I will just take you very, very shortly through these guidelines. Number one, hand wash. So I will request that every society should encourage its members to carry a small bottle of hand wash. If no hand wash, then one sabun ka tukda in his pocket. Whenever you get a chance, just wash your hands. There's a very remarkable study done by Dr. Atul Gawande. He was the advisor to the president of the US. And in the center that he runs, there is a difference between people who wash hands very regularly and those who don't wash hands regularly, getting the infection. People who wash hands more regularly are about 200% less likely to get the infection than people who do not wash their hands, other things being equal. So it's a very interesting study. So the most important guideline is hand wash. Earlier, we were told that don't wash your hands very often because there are bacteria within the hands, and if you wash your hands very often, then the bacteria die. But today, we are being told that kill this COVID virus and we'll think of the bacteria later. So the alternative is to carry a hand sanitizer, a very small hand sanitizer can be taken. The hand sanitizer should either be an alcohol-based sanitizer or it should be a chlorhexidine-based sanitizer, and that kills the coronavirus. Then, after you come home, you should take a bath and change your clothes immediately. And this clothes should be soaked in hot water with soap. That is what is the first thing. Second is that whenever you go out in any public place, please wear a mask. Any mask will do. You can wear an N95 mask or you can wear a regular handkerchief, but please wear a mask. And if you feel that you need greater protection, just make the mask moist. That gives you far better protection than any other thing. So that is the third thing. The third most important thing is physical distancing. I hate the word social distancing. I think the Republic of India has fought over the last 200 years to reduce social distancing. And I find that the Western world has again introduced the word social distancing. Let them use social distancing. We will say physical distancing. So the third thing is physical distancing. And physical distancing is something, as I said, 6 feet distance from each other. People who do not live with you in your household, that is, and people whom you do not know very well, that is one. And then let's not shake hands. Let's go back to Namaste, what Donald Trump did. So that is the second thing. Third is, let us report the cases as soon as possible. So if I am unwell, I have to visit the fever clinic. And I might be the CEO of a multinational, and I may have a whole hospital at my house. But believe me, you have to visit the fever clinic. As we talk now, there is a person who is known to more than one person in this gathering who was absolutely asymptomatic, and today he's in a ventilator. So the way the disease goes, it is unbelievable. And therefore, the only thing, like in St. George, we have got about 51 people who went into a mechanical ventilator, but then they have walked home. 3 of them were people who worked with me in the excise department. So 51 people, this is a very big number. But what is the common denominator? These people all came as soon as they developed the symptoms. So we were in touch with the patient right from the beginning. We admitted them right in the beginning, and we were able to guide them through that critical path. On the contrary, there was a very famous thing when the disease started in Pune. In 2 days, 33 people died. 33 people died in 2 days. Now, these were the first cases of the so-called cytokine storm. And then we found that the average time in which these people had come was less than 48 hours in the hospital. And they had developed the disease 9 days in advance. So they came very late. So the third thing is that please report your infection as soon as you can. And if you get to know somebody else in the neighborhood has that infection, this is not the time to be politically correct. This is the time to report to the corporation that there is a person who is having the symptoms, please report him. Then when we will be traveling now, we have to maintain the social distancing. So in the aircrafts, in railway stations, and also in the taxis, we have to follow that. Then when we go for a haircut, now spa has been allowed and haircuts are allowed. So when we go to the haircut, we have to ensure that I wear a mask, he wears a mask, and the sanitization of the equipment should be in front of me. So he should sanitize the equipment right in front of me, in front of my eyes. Maybe it will take some more time, maybe it will cost a bit more, but that is one thing which everybody has to do. Then while shopping, we have to maintain social distance come what may, and do as much as online facilities as meetings as possible. And there is a big talk which is going on in cooperative society, that is sanitization chambers. So there are some people who have prepared some chambers, and these chambers they install at the beginning, at the entrance of the society. And as you walk through those chambers, the sanitizer or sodium hypochlorite, etc., they get sprinkled upon you. Now, let me tell you, these sanitization chambers should be strictly avoided. They do not cause any kind of sanitization. They give you a very false sense of security. And thirdly, they also spoil your skin and your eyes, and they create many allergic problems. So I think one thing as a housing society, many housing societies are having these sanitation things. This should not be there. I've already spoken about masks. I've already spoken about isolation. I think another thing which all of us have to do in the lockdown period, we are saving a lot on commuting time, because apps like Zoom and apps like FaceTime and WhatsApp have really made us meet each other without meeting physically. That time that we get, let us do some sort of physical exercise. Nothing increases your immunity more than exercise. So whether it is simple skipping, jumping, walking within the house, whatever you like, please go ahead and do that exercise. In lockdown, what is happening that people's sleep patterns are changing. So people are sleeping at the daytime and they are getting up at night, and they're watching television and all that. Now, I cannot impress how bad this habit is and how badly it stops your immunity. So please don't do that. Then, regarding elderly people, I will say the best thing is that elderly people should be in their houses and nobody should visit them. And if you have to visit them, then please take care of being fully sanitized yourself before you enter there. So, in fact, the country of Israel had made a law that you cannot meet your grandparents. So you have to, if you want to give anything to them, leave it at the door, and when they take it, they will sterilize and take it. There are some other issues. Housing societies, so I will circulate this, it's a long, big protocol. I will circulate this protocol in the internet today itself instead of waiting till Monday. And I would request all of you to circulate this amongst all your members. Let people follow this to the extent. And lastly, regarding the things that housing societies are doing, which are not in their purview, I think there has to be a huge social barrier against this. And the local municipal corporation, and I believe you have called the district deputy registrar of cooperative societies here, and yes, the TDR, he should be made aware of what is happening. And this is the time that we have to take action against people who do undesirable behavior. Because today, it is not that you are just inconveniencing somebody else and maybe taking away his time. The disease of coronavirus does not differentiate between rich and poor. And though we say that it does differentiate between young and old, But what is young, that jury is also out. So anybody above 45 is not young, right? So it does not differentiate much between not so young, the old, and the very old, right? So it does not differentiate between that. And it does not know who is the municipal commissioner and who is the film star and who is the VIP and who is what. It affects everybody equally. And it only respects the following things. Number one, not to touch your face. Number two, please keep your hands clean. Number three, please wear a mask. Please don't touch your face and all. Don't touch contaminated surfaces. And maintain cleanliness wherever you can go. So I think that the regulatory aspect of this cannot be ruled out. We as government have to regulate, and as citizens, you have to bring it to our notice that these breaches are happening. And at this point of time, we cannot say कि आम्ही काही वाईटपणा घेणार नाही. If required, we have to take that वाईटपणा and we have to enforce the law because our lives are at stake and we cannot afford to lose any human life because of anybody's negligence. So I thank all of you. I hope my talk was of some use to you, and I thank all of you for inviting me here. And thank you very much.